Welcome in, whiskey freaks, to the Blind Tasting Podcast, your number one attitudinal bourbon destination. I'm John Stark, I'm your host, and I'll be bringing you candid and sometimes irreverent whiskey news, opinions, and reviews on the industry and the products they've been bringing us for hundreds of years. Welcome in for real, guys. The whiskey world is a crazy place, and we're going to try to make sense of it today. So let's get started.
Apologies for this interruption, but we have some breaking news.
Yeah, there's big news today, kids, and it involves our good friends Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. And yes, it involves that power couple, the lovey-dovey, silly kids everybody's always talking about. And here's the big headline. Travis Kelce is pregnant. Okay, fine. No, he's not. He is definitely not pregnant. But let's be real, he is whipped. He is totally whipped. And I mean, if your girlfriend, and I'm sorry, I mean fiance, had $1 billion, what would you guys do? That's right. Just sit back, smile, and nod like a good boy. That's exactly what you do. Today, guys, we focus on nothing but bourbon-y goodness. A big surprise there, right? I've got all kinds of cool things to throw your way, and we might just learn something while we're at it. I've got a bourbon BOLO. Be on the lookout for these two new releases out there, one from Ross and Squibb and one from our good friends at Wild Turkey. And I want to talk about what exactly is a whiskey freak. Yeah, I know we all know, but I want to flesh it out today for everybody else. So hang with me. This should be good. And I get in a good rant. Pretty sure I'm going to feel better. I don't know if you're going to feel better, but I'm going to feel better. I've got something I need to rant about today. And guys, you have my word. I promise you all, I will not say the words Cracker Barrel not one time during this episode. There'll be no Uncle Herschel. There'll be nothing about a sign. Not even once. I pinky promise. And finally, the good part, the fun part, the part I enjoy the most, I review Old Forester Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. But before I get started with all the bourbony goodness, I want to take a quick detour, guys. I went to the movies, I guess it was about a week and a half ago, and I saw Nobody 2. It's that one with the lawyer dude from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I can never think of the dude's name. I sat there and watched the movie, but the movie is exactly what you think. It's fists flying, it's revenge served hot, and there are more bodies hitting the floor than at a Slipknot concert. I'm giving this movie, Nobody 2, a solid B+, and for me, that's about as good as it gets these days, really. So yeah, I saw the new Naked Gun movie, which was Leslie Nielsen, and now the new one is Liam Neeson. That's not confusing, right? Anyway, I figured that one was probably like a B-. It doesn't quite hit like the first one did for me. But anyway, back to Nobody 2. Have you guys ever seen The Beekeeper? Nobody 2, basically the same vibe. Just good old-fashioned ass-kicking. Get you some popcorn to munch on, get you some soda to slurp on. Just for me, it's good relaxing therapy at the theater. It's what I do. I get my gigantic tub of greasy popcorn, which is probably going to give me a heart attack, and my gigantic 40 ounces of Mountain Dew, which is probably going to give me the diabetes. I hunker down, and I usually go on Cheap Tuesday night with the wife, and it's just a great time. Look, I don't need a lecture on climate change or plastic grocery bags when I buy a ticket to the movies. I just want to hang out with the wife, shovel in some Reese's Pieces, and watch people get drop-kicked through the wall. That's just what I like to do. So I wanted to recommend it. Not that my recommendation means anything to you guys, but hey, go on Discount Tuesday, the Marcus Theater in town, the AMC Theater. I think they both have Tuesday discounts, at least around here in St. Louis. It's $6. Worst case, you're out the price of like a combo meal. And the best case, you walk out with a full belly of popcorn and soda like I do, right? Either way, it's a win. It's a pretty decent, mindless way to spend a couple hours and relax. So I need you all to be on the lookout. BOLO for these new whiskey releases. And these, I'm excited about the Remus Repeal. I want to get my hands on it. And so I want to tell you about it today. Remus Repeal Reserve Series 9. That should be landing any day now. And it's the 9th limited release from Ross Squibb Distillery in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, aka MGP. And I'm not talking down to you by giving you that information. I'm just giving you that information. More on that in a few minutes. They say this release tips the hat to the end of Prohibition in 1933. And here are the deets. Series 9 is a high rye bourbon blend aged 10 to 18 years. It's non-chill filtered, which is amazing, and it's bottled at 104 proof. That's about the perfect proof point for me, and that is the highest proof point in the Remus Repeal series so far. MSRP is a delightful $99.99 for a 750 milliliter bottles, and supply is limited. I don't know if you call this one allocated or not, but it is harder to find and it goes really quickly. Let me give you the blend. Here's the blend because I know you guys might really want to know this. It's 7% of the blend is an 18-year bourbon that's 21% rye. 26% of the blend is an 11-year bourbon with a 36% rye. 23%, are you writing this down? 23% of a 10-year bourbon with 36%, I know my eyes just glossed over, and 44% of a 10-year bourbon with 21% rye. At any rate, it is a blend of probably very good bourbons, and it sounds amazing to me. And it will sound amazing to you after I read these tasting notes. And here we go. Seasoned oak, leather, ripe cherry, and a little tobacco. On the palate, cherry, roasted coffee, and a touch of smoky spice. The finish hangs with oak and spice, then slides into coffee, cherry, and tobacco. So it really, really sounds like it tastes like an older whiskey that's not over-aged. It sounds great. Master distiller Ian Sturzman says they pulled some of their most unique barrels and then they blind tasted at different proofs before landing at 104. And that lets the 10 to 18 year whiskey show off. That's what they say. If you care about the trophy case, last year's Series 8, it grabbed platinum. Ooh, platinum at the 2025 Ascot Awards. Wasn't that fancy? And double gold at San Francisco and gold plus Consumer's Choice at the SIP Awards. Okay, sure, whatever. Main thing is, do you like it? Drink it, right? The line has been praised by outlets like Uproxx, Whiskey Fellow, and the Tasting Panel. Well, how about that? Like I said, the bottom line, if you like bold, spicy, high rye bourbon with real age, Series 9 should be on your list. Another BOLO, be on the lookout, Master's Keep Beacon. It's finally here, guys. Got big news out of Wild Turkey. After more than a decade, the legendary Master's Keep series is coming to an end. This will be its 11th and final release. This one's called Master's Keep Beacon. It's extra special because it's the first father-son collaboration between Eddie Russell, the master distiller, and his son Bruce, who is an associate master blender. Eventually, I guess they'll pass this on down to Bruce and send it down the line like they often do. Now, Eddie's contribution to this particular Beacon release is a 16-year-old bourbon distilled way back in 2007 and 2008. And it's pulled from some of the last barrels filled at the old Wild Turkey distillery before the 2011 expansion. Bruce's side, his side of the blend is a 10-year-old distilled in 2015. And it's some of the very first bourbon he ever produced alongside his dad and his granddaddy, the legendary Jimmy Russell. So they put it together and you get a whiskey that bridges two eras of Wild Turkey history, bottled at a bold 59% ABV, 118 proof, the highest proof in the Master's Keep lineup. Now, Bruce says this release feels especially meaningful, and I think he's right, since it's the first Master's Keep with his name on the bottle, using bourbon he helped create in his early days. Eddie reflected on the whole 10-year run, saying the Master's Keep series gave them a chance to share some of the rarest whiskeys in their rickhouses while staying true to the Wild Turkey spirit. Beacon is launching, this is the bummer, Beacon is launching first in Australia before hitting other markets, and it's already shaping up to be a piece of Wild Turkey history, so they say. I think everybody's going to be looking hard for this one because it is the final offering in that collection. So, I love history and learning. I know, right? So I want to spend 2 minutes learning what I believe, what exactly is a whiskey freak. Yeah, I thought it was a good question too. If you're an avid listener, and we've got them all over the world, all 50 states, all over the place, and I want to give a special shout out to our German friends. You guys are solid. Anyway, so I mentioned the term, that group of folks on every episode. I mentioned that term, whiskey freak. Probably more than you care to hear, but that's just how I refer to everybody who's as engrossed in this whiskey universe as I am. So I want to get deep into the weeds on this one. I want to speak on this topic and really get to the bottom of it and actually define the term whiskey freak. And I'm doing this for 2 reasons. One, it's my podcast. I invented the term. And 2, I've had a lot of folks ask me, why the hell do you call them whiskey freaks? What's up with that? Is that talking down to folks? Is it a derogatory statement? Those are all good questions, really. And today I figure it's my chance, really, it's my obligation to explain it in great detail. Now, I've been doing this now for this might be episode 55, I don't know. Over a year now, and I believe it's time. Whiskey freak. It isn't just some random nickname or an excuse to be edgy. Guys, I do this to have fun. I do this to educate. I do this because I love it. And I hope you do too. Will there be some edginess to it? Maybe. That's just me. That's part of me. Will there be some entertainment value in here? Yeah, that's me too. But it's a badge of honor. It's not what a lot of people might think though. First off, a whiskey freak is not a whiskey geek. We are not geeks. We are not whiskey nerds or some pretentious bourbon snob asshole. No, a whiskey freak doesn't memorize mash bills or go on and on about parts per million of phenols or try to tell you how to drink your whiskey, although I believe you should drink it neat. They don't roll their eyes when you say you like ice in your bourbon, although I think you should drink it neat. And they definitely don't, but I'm not going to judge you for drinking it with ice. Whiskey freaks don't act like they're better than you because they can name every distillery in Kentucky, which it, by the way, changes on what seems like a daily basis, and it's just simply not possible.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
A whiskey freak isn't the guy who gives you tasting notes so fancy it sounds like they're describing a 5-course meal at a Michelin star restaurant instead of a glass of brown liquid. And they don't use words like nosing or palate just to sound smart. They keep it simple. That's perfect. That's unpretentious. Now you're like, Stark, okay, you told us who isn't a whiskey freak. So who is a whiskey freak? Well, it's someone who loves whiskey, all whiskey. The smell of charred oak, the sweetness of the vanilla, the smooth burn going down, the actual smell of a rickhouse. Have you ever stood in a rickhouse and just breathed it in? It's the experience that'll hook you. Whether you're pouring a $15 bottle you grabbed off a clearance rack or you're enjoying a limited edition single barrel, you're all in. And a whiskey freak doesn't care if your bottle is expensive or if it's cheap or it's rare or it's easy to find, although I like to focus on the ones that are easier to find. A whiskey freak appreciates the craft and the culture behind the drink. Why do you think I shout out to the people who do the work at the warehouse and then in the distillery and the farmers, right? A whiskey freak is happy to share their experience with anyone. Guys, it's about the history. It's about the experience. A whiskey freak is also curious and cool. Always down to try something new, ask questions, swap stories. But they don't get bogged down in jargon or act like whiskey is rocket science. It's just good whiskey shared with good people. Most importantly, a whiskey freak brings people together. They're the ones inviting friends over for a pour or a bottle share. They're making whiskey the centerpiece of good conversation and laughter. They don't gatekeep. They don't judge. They welcome. So if you're that person who smiles a little when you pour a glass, or who slows down to catch the aroma like it's an old friend, or who tells stories about a favorite bottle like it's a treasured memory, congratulations. You might just be a whiskey freak. You've got no pretension, no snobbery. You're not full of bullshit. You just have a genuine love for whiskey and a little obsession with enjoying it your way. That's why I call you whiskey freaks, because it's real, it's honest, and it's a hell of a lot of fun. So guys, real quick before I get to the fun part, I need you to jump over to Apple Podcast or Spotify or iHeart, whichever app you use. Drop me a 5-star review. It really helps me get more visibility so I can share the pod with more and more whiskey freaks. And now we know exactly who the whiskey freaks are, right? It would mean a lot to me if you would just take 2 seconds, jump over there, mash those buttons, drop me a good review, okay? All right, enough with the ass kissing. And now I'm on to the ranting. Look, I warned you at the start of this episode, and this time I think you'll agree. Okay, you may not agree, but I got to get this off my chest. And I mentioned on the podcast in the last episode, I think it was the last episode, I hinted that I'd be saying something about talking down to you guys. This hits me hard because I feel like actually, okay, I don't feel like, I know I don't talk down to y'all. Look, I'm curious, and I've talked about what is a whiskey freak, right? I'm curious. I'm learning every day, and I mentioned the new book. I always mention the new book now, right? You need to go buy the book, Whiskey, Wisdom, and Bourbon BS, right? You got to go check that out on Amazon. Well, the reason I mentioned the book is because when I made the book, when I wrote the book, when I put the book together, I learned a ton of things here. I'm not an expert. I'm learning as I go, and I'm sharing that with you guys. The amount of research I spent, I couldn't tell you how many 100 hours of research I spent. I never knew things like whiskey had anything to do with rescues on the Titanic, right? Or that countries might actually argue and fight over islands and trade bottles of whiskey, right? It's crazy shit. I learned all kinds of crazy shit. Well, so here's my rub and where all my angst comes from today. And I think I've got pretty thick skin. Okay, most of the time. But this one just can't go unnoticed. I got this guy, and I'm only going to say his name one time. Vlad. V-L-A-D. Vlad. And this cat left a 1-star review for the podcast. Actually, he left it for me. He was very directed at me personally. And I want to get this out in the open. So whiskey freaks, let's gather around the old pot still, because we've got to talk about this guy. And I'm only going to say his name one time. Vlad. He left a review saying my voice is annoying and the sound effects are lame. Now, keep in mind, at the same time, Vlad, and I'm only going to say his name one time, he says he spent months and months listening to the podcast.
Say what?
So, whiskey freaks, let me ask you a question. How many months do you have to listen to the pod to become so angry, so upset, so bored that you leave a 1-star review for a guy who's truly trying to have fun and laugh and learn and share all this stuff about whiskey? And keep in mind, Vlad, and I'm only going to say that name one time, buddy, old pal, this podcast is absolutely free of charge. You pay nothing for this fucking podcast. Now, I was raised, if you didn't have anything nice to say, you kept your stupid, damn, ignorant fool mouth shut. Now, I'm not saying that here because it's a free country. But listen, my guy, I read your review very carefully, and I gotta say, it's one of the most impressive demonstrations of endurance I've ever seen. I mean, you spent months listening to this podcast like it was some sort of punishment, some sort of torture, and you somehow lived to tell about it and write about it. That is truly remarkable, my guy. Now, I get the inkling your sense of humor has probably been locked in a basement since the Bush administration. And now on to my voice. The vocal effects, old buddy, old pal, old poopsie. Guys, we're trying to connect here. We're trying to educate. We're trying to enjoy our time together. I'm not trying to invent a torture device just for you, buddy. And the review? I think you've mastered the art of complaint like it's a blood sport. I'll bet you're the kind of guy who could sit through a live circus, a symphony, and a TED Talk all in one day and still come home to write a 500-word goddamn bitch essay on why it was so offensive, so boring, and so unimpressive. I salute your dedication, I really do, but maybe, just maybe, step outside once in a while. Meet another human. Maybe allow yourself the radical notion that some jokes are actually just that. They're just jokes. So here's to you, Vlad, the lone critic, the hermit hero, the man who endured a podcast for months and months and survived to complain. Your review is etched into the annals of the Blind Tasting Podcast. And for those of you with infinity bottles, probably Vlad, no, definitely Vlad, that means the official record or story of what happened over time. And just like that last statement, it's comedy, it's sarcasm. I'm poking fun. So let that be a reminder that not everything I say here is talking down. And I definitely don't intend to hurt anybody's widow feelings. Sometimes I'm just trying to entertain. Now, my whiskey freaks, on to the fun part. Today I'm cracking open a bottle of Old Forester straight bourbon whiskey. And this one's maybe a little harder to spot than others. I don't know. I don't always see it at my local spots, but we got a new liquor store in town a few weeks ago, and this one just screamed, "Review me," as I wandered down the bourbon aisle. And before I start, I gotta give you the disclaimer. Here we go. I bought it. You can trust me. That's it. Let's go. So the company is, let me grab the bottle here real quick. The company is Brown-Forman, and these are the same guys who own Woodford Reserve. They own Old Forester. I think they even own a few other enterprises. I'm not worried about those today. And fun fact, the good folks at Brown-Forman have over 5,000 employees across 6 continents worldwide, and that there are only 7 continents, so they have 6. Okay. They are the largest American-owned spirits company and among the top 10 on the planet. The name of the distillery is Old Forester. And the bottle? Well, the bottle of Old Forester straight bourbon whiskey looks about like any other Old Forester bottle, shape and size. And it's a 750, and that's amazing. Now, this one comes in at just 86 proof. It's not age stated, but because it is a straight bourbon whiskey, we know it's at least 2 years old, aged in new charred oak barrels. Now, the mash bill of Old Forester is usually, and in this case, is 72 corn, 18% rye, and 10% malted barley. Now, the barrel char is interesting, so I made a note of this. And if I'm not mistaken, Old Forester kind of goes crazy when they char their barrels. They give their barrels a number 4 plus. I mean, they char it for, I think, 55 seconds or more, which is a lot of time under that flame. The number 4 char is intense, and it's also known as alligator char. And that's because after that long length of time under the flame, the inside of the barrel wood has this rough, shiny texture that kind of looks like alligator skin. Now, the price. Like I said, I bought this bottle, and you can buy it too. Turns out it costs somewhere from depending on what store you're at, $22 to $25. And like I said, I don't see it everywhere, but I have seen it at Save On Liquor, and I've seen it, I think last year, I saw it at Total Wine. So today I'm tasting with a Glencairn, my favorite limestone branch Glencairn, actually. One day we're going to review Yellowstone soon, and I'm going to use this Glencairn right here for that review. Let me crack this bottle open and get a pour. Alrighty. And don't get me started on the neck pour, guys. I don't want to have that discussion. I will never have that discussion. And I've already got my rant out for the day. I just don't have the energy for it right now. The color. And I say this every time. I do not judge the color by what you see inside the bottle. You've got to pour it into a glass to really evaluate it. So I've got it in my Glencairn here, and I've got the lights turned up to 1,000 here in the basement. And here I go. The color sometimes gives you an idea of the breadth of flavors you're about to receive in your mouth. And in my opinion, the darker the hue of the whiskey in your glass, the deeper the flavors. It's not always true. It is sometimes, it is most of the time. I'm going to tell you guys this every time, and I told you today as well. So I'm looking at the color on this one, and it is actually kind of a beautiful dark caramel color. It is not dark, mid. It's not. It's darker than. You know what? This looks kind of like that honey. This is like a dark honey color. It's actually impressive considering this is 86 proof, and we know that it's at least 2 years. So I'm impressed right away by looking at the color. Not trying to make any judgments or any final decisions at the moment off the color. Not going to do that. But I think I can make that statement. It looks very well. It looks very good to me. Let me nose it. Beautiful, beautiful caramel. Getting that typical vanilla note that you would get with just about any bourbon whiskey. I'm getting a light fruit note like cherries. Just light. Maybe a tinge of banana. And when the faintest, you don't get this note very often. The faintest, like black licorice note, really faint. I like that. That's fun. Let me get a sip here. Do that famous Kentucky Chew brought to us by Master Distiller Booker No. This packs a decent punch at 86 proof. Let me get another sip real quick. Okay, guys, there are lots of flavors for me to dissect, so bear with me here. This is unusual. I did not expect this today. Oh, the mouthfeel and legs. Let me tell you about those first. So the legs are actually, I'm moving it around. I'm swirling it in my Glencairn back and forth. The legs are pretty decent here. I'd call it above average, actually. It's nicely sticking to the inside of my glass and dripping down as I swirl it. And that mouthfeel, let me sip it again. It's creamier than I'd figure. Yeah, it's creamier than I'd figure for a young, low proofer like this. I like this. It's decently creamy. There's like some banana cream to it. I'm also picking up a lot of brown sugar here. Maybe a tinge of cinnamon too. Let me get another sip. Hope I'm not giving it away here, guys. So yeah, the typical stuff is here, like we'd expect. Caramel. It's got dark caramel. It's very rich. There's bready flavors in here too. Lots of layers to this 86 proof. This is, wow. One more sip. I know I'm doing a lot of sipping today, but yeah, there's a bit of oak in here. Not a lot. It's a nice oak. It's not a rough or a scratchy oak. It's a nice, gentle oak note. And that banana note is really evident here on the finish. And I think that note's often found in Old Forester stuff, if I'm not mistaken, right? And I wonder if that's due to the crazy 4+ barrel char they do. I need to make a note and look into that. And speaking of making notes, probably wouldn't be a bad idea to have my notebook out. I do not have my notebook today. I've mentioned it many times. Make sure you have a notebook. Take notes while you're tasting. You'll be able to look back on previous tastings, compare notes, and it makes a difference what you ate. Like if you went to Mexican and you had enchiladas and then you tasted something, or you went to the ice cream shop and you got ice cream, your tasting experience is going to be different. It's guaranteed to be a different tasting experience depending on the food you ate. So write that kind of stuff down on the days that you taste, and then you can refer back to it, and you can update your notes based on any changes that your palate may have had or the food that you've eaten. So there's a lot of flavors in this Old Forester straight bourbon whiskey, and I want to get one more sip before we get the verdict. Yeah. So what's the verdict? Well, I'll have the answer right after the money spot. Are you looking to update your bar or man cave with some great photographs or wall art? Head over to Etsy at famousdocs.etsy.com and pick up some fantastic prohibition, bourbon, whiskey, and gangster-related photographs and wall art. Okay, guys, you got to check this stuff out. They've got Al Capone, John Dillinger, Bonnie and Clyde. I mentioned on the last episode, they have Wild West gunfighters like Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. They have stuff, Billy the Kid, Jesse James, all that kind of good stuff. Wild Bill Hickok. They got all kinds of cool photos over there. And if you purchase 4 or more items at one time, you'll get 20% off your entire order. That's famousdocs.etsy.com. famousdocs.etsy.com. Now on the Blind Tasting Podcast, we have 3 verdict options. Keep it, collect it, or cull it. To keep it means to proudly display it in your liquor cabinet or on your bar. This stuff's good for a pour anytime, but there's no need to stock up on it because you can always get it. It's always available. Or collect it. Grab another bottle or maybe 2 since you find it so damn delicious. Or just may not be easy to obtain. Or cull it. Use it to loosen rusty bolts or sanitize a dirty toilet. In the case of Old Forester straight bourbon whiskey, 86 proof, I say, keep it. I mean, I'm not speechless, but I'm surprised by this low proofer. It's just 86 proof. And we know it's at least 2 years old, but I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't 3 or 4 years old, actually, or if there wasn't some in here that was that old. It's got too much going on to be that young. The dark caramel, the banana, and damn, it's creamy. And I don't even know how that can be possible. It is what it is. And so I'm glad for that. I'm glad money well spent, right? It'll run you about $24 or so. And at that price point, would I buy it again? I think, yeah, maybe. And I think the only reason I would say maybe is because I have had the Old Forester 100 proof. And I don't mean the bottled in bond. They actually make 100 proof. And I had a bottle, but evidently I've drank it because I looked through the whole house, could not find it because I wanted to compare notes here on the pod today with that 100 proofer. I couldn't find it. Anyway, I drank it all. It must have been delicious. Now, I did find my notebook and I looked it up. And the one note that I made that was prominent or pronounced was that 100 proof Old Forester had strong cherry notes to it. And I did get some cherry notes out of the 86 proof as well. So I don't know. Is it worth, and I looked up 100 proof Old Forester would be like $3 more. So $28-ish. I'd like to know what you guys think. If you had both of them, and if you have, let me know. Is it worth $3 or is the 80? I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. This 86 proof, this is a banger for $24, and it's got the sweetness. It's got so many layers to it. This for me is a definite pickup. If you and I say pick it up, give it a try, but you may not find this 86 proof version at Old Forester at the bar. I've never seen it at a bar, and I've not rarely seen it. I have seen it at Save-On and Total Wine. So you may have to grab a bottle, or maybe you can find it like an airplane bottle or something somewhere. I don't know. The verdict for me is keep it, share it, and I enjoy it. And remember, all right, remember, we're all whiskey freaks, and we're all here to share. We're here to learn. We're here to laugh. More importantly, we're here to relax, guys. Thanks for listening to the podcast today. And don't forget to leave me a quality 5-star review. And if you haven't already, mash that subscribe button on Apple and YouTube, iHeart, Spotify. Not Spotify, all those places. Last but not least, I got to give a shout out to the farmers, distillery production guys and gals, the warehouse workers, the bottlers, and the truck drivers. Like I always say, they make it happen. So cheers to all of them.